All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Ministry Revealed. It is December 6th, 2018. I hope you guys are prepared. I told you I was doing, working on part 3, the Daniel 9 final understanding. I got 5 pages, guys. And, yeah, I'm sorry to tell you that was abbreviated. I mean, this goes into so many areas that I had to stop it. Oh, isn't that interesting? Look at how many words I've got in it. 33:22. The 22nd year is the jubilee, which ends in 33. Funny how these things happen, right? I think one of the last videos was 118 or something like that, because it all begins in 2018, Psalms 118, right? Man, it's crazy. Guys, I'm giddy. I'm a little I have like this nervous excitement in me showing you guys this teaching, doing this teaching. For those that are new, you're going to need to go back and watch part 1 and part 2. This is part 3. Am I saying you can't watch and follow it and get the understanding without part 1 and 2? No, you definitely can. However, part 1 and part 2 build up your understanding of what we're talking about. If you're new to the channel and you're jumping in and we're here talking about the timeline and revealing the understanding of 14 years, that the true end times has a total of 21 years with the jubilee at the end of 20, which is the 22nd in the year 32 to 33. You know, it's a year goes from spring to spring. If I tell you that right now in 2018, the bride is about to go, not the whole church, but the bride, and that's going to kick off 14 years of tribulation, you guys would be like, huh? What's this guy smoking? All right? You need to understand. The simplest thing, I mean, you can go back and watch those 2 videos. I'll show you where they are. Is once you understand Psalms 90 verse 10, it's all about 14 years. It is a 7 years for the church, but not all the church. All right? It's 7 years, but the bride goes first, then you have 7 years for the sleeping church. The rapture comes in 2024. Trumpets begin in 2025 with the Lord on Mount Zion. And right before that happens at the rapture, you also get 144,000 that get sealed. Those are the ones, the first fruits for Judah, all right? Before the trumpets start, and then you've got 7 years of trumpets. And guess what? The Lord said after 2 days, after 2,000 years, he'll return. And guess what? 14 years from where right now today, just about any moment, we're waiting for our warning, right? From that moment, 14 years, once the bride is gone, 14 years will begin. And that is not understood by 99.999% of the church. All right? So that's why I say go back and watch part 1 and part 2. But get ready for this one, because this one, we're going to take some time here, guys. There's a lot of scripture, a lot of things to cover. And like I said, I'm just touching on it, doing these 5 pages. And before we get going, I want to show you guys something. So, like I said, you can come here. When I said part 1 and part 2, you can come click on the playlist here. So this is on Ministry Revealed channel. Obviously, you're on it. And you can come here for the playlist. See, End Time Prophecies to Timeline with study notes. You can also come click on the right-hand side here and come to this as well. All right, this is the 14-year understanding over a 3-part series that we did a few months back. This is the Mark of the Beast in 2 videos. You're going to want to check that out. It's a mind blower once you realize the technology, who created it, where it comes from, who's moving it now, what's connected to it. But what we're talking about is right here. All right, part 1 and part 2 are in there. And today we are working on part 3. All right. And I need this portion of this page because I'm going to talk about this briefly later. All right. Now, I want to start off by showing you one thing that just came into the understanding yesterday. It was a revelation, or not a big revelation, but it was an understanding that came about that revealed something really important that we came to understand from a different angle, right? We came to understand it from 1983 and this whole deal of the century with Trump, and we came to realize that the final 7 years, the 777, right, of years, which began in 2011, the first 7 are the easy years. Remember Jacob says that in Genesis 29? The first 7 years that he works for his first bride, they were easy years. That is what we're finishing right now. All right, those first 7 years, but we're still here for a little bit. And there's a purpose. It goes, which we're not going to go into, that goes into the Mount Transfigurations. However, what it revealed was that the true Jubilee is at the Lord's second coming. The Lord's second coming is not until the end, the 14th year. All right, just the last year, I should say. All right, he returns in the 14th year to cleanse everything. We're going to talk about that today. And then what does that do? That shows the Jubilee. It is the final, right? The 777, the final 21. Those are the final in the 49 years. And the Jubilee is that 50th year from 32 to 33, 2032 to 2033. That is the Jubilee year when everything is restored, which we will also touch on today. But I want to show you something here. In John 11, I was asked this by a couple of you yesterday. We were going through it in some emails back and forth. And the question was, it was about talking about how it appears that really, what's his name? Lazarus, right? Lazarus is the one whom the Lord loved and so forth. And, you know, that's up to debate, but he's definitely one that he loved, and his sisters and so forth, right? But the question was, why does Jesus say when Jesus comes to him, he found him that he had lain in the grave for 4 days? Why did Jesus stay away for 2 more days and not come earlier? Right? Why did he wait 4 days? Wait till you see the revelation, guys. The reason he waited 4 days, remember, it was to what? Let me go to it in my favorite. By the way, guys, before it all gets going, pause if you have this program and bring it up. Remember, this is eSword. This, we're going to bounce through it and show you the understanding. Remember, there's a reason why. See all these Hebrew words, and in the New Testament, we have the Greek words, and that is where you get your understanding. So this is what we're going to follow around in. This is what I always use. So if you don't have this, you can have one like it. They're free. All right? They're free to download. This one is called eSword. If you're on your phone and you have an Android, you're going to want one called MySword. All right? But let me show you something here in Luke 11, just to give you an insight to something new that came about. Okay? It's regarding Lazarus. Whoops, where am I going? It's regarding Lazarus. Let me go up one more here. I want to see something. 4 and 17. Regarding Lazarus, all right? When Jesus goes to see Lazarus, right, to raise him from the dead, on his way, what does he tell them? He says, this sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God might be glorified thereby. Right? So what do we know? It's not a mystery, right? Lazarus was a foreshadow, right? He was a type and shadow of Christ. Right? It's not a mystery. And that Jesus would be glorified in God when he raised him from the dead. All right? So that's not a mystery. But the understanding in the mystery is right here. When Jesus came, he found that he had already lain in the grave. He was already dead for 4 days. Now here's the thing. Why did Jesus tarry 2 more days and come at the 4th day? The answer is quite simple once you understand it, but I believe it was a little mystery. The answer is because he was a representation of Christ, right? Well, what is this telling us then? 4 days. You see, even the church got all of this wrong. Because when did they begin the Gregorian? When did they begin the new calendar? They said at his birth, or give or take around his birth, correct? Should have been at his death. You see that? It should have been at his death. Why? Because Jesus died after 4 days. Lazarus, he was telling us, by Lazarus being raised from the dead, having died and raised from the dead after 4 days, he was telling us that at his death and resurrection, it would be 4 days. Remember creation? 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. His death is the revelation of the 4,000, which is what? The jubilee count. Do you follow? The jubilee count. His death began the 2 days. When will he return? After 2 days? Remember, it's going to be perfect. It was his death, not his birth, that began the next 2 days. See that? And that's the revelation of why he waited for 4 days and didn't go after 2. And why he didn't go after 3. And why he didn't stay a third and wait till the 5th. Because it was going to be an example of him. See that? Something so simple, yet there the whole time. And I don't know that it's been understood fully. Well, actually, I'm positive it's never been understood. Because one, the Jews already think they were celebrating, well, they didn't believe in Jesus, but they were already celebrating their Jubilee year, right? We've got all these other pastors and teachers that have been telling us, it's the Jubilee, and nothing happens. We got to realize a restoration happens at a Jubilee, right? That's what's about to happen. All right, that'll be when the Lord returns. But remember, there's a difference in the returns. There is also a feet down return. All right? Feet down on the Mount of Olives. We're going to touch on that one today too. It's all part of what we're going to go into. And real quick, I wanted to show you guys this. You guys can come here and click on Tribulation 14 Years, and you can download, because on YouTube, unless you have an app or something, it's hard to download the information. All right? So you can come here to the website, ministryrevealed.com. And I wanted to show you something. Look at these pictures you guys have sent us. Look at this, guys. This is Keith Klein. Keith Klein is a killer artist. I don't mean that. I don't mean that as a pun or anything, but you know, look at this. When you understand, and I think this one, see, after the storm, you have the lighthouse there. These are the Keith Klein ones, watercolors. See that he does. Beautiful, beautiful, amazing stuff. Look at that. This is by far my favorite one. I liked many of them that he has sent me. We haven't posted them all, but this is just incredible, incredible. I just love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And then here's another thing you guys can do: a printout, right? You can give this to people, right? A cloud card front, and then this is the back. Remember, the Lord for the bride is coming in a cloud. When he returns on Mount Zion, he's coming in the clouds, and the final time he's coming feet down. All right? We have the revealed in the robe over here. And look at this, guys. This looks like some professional artist that does cartoons, right? Look at that. You know who did this? This is Jimmy. This is our brother Jimmy, who built the website for us. Right? You see him, son of the bride of Jesus, something like that is his channel. He's an artist too, guys. Oh, and by the way, I wanted to tell you guys, Jimmy was the one I was telling you. He was going to be meeting with 3 pastors. Remember, we thought he was going to meet with them a week ago, but they had some bad weather in Montreal. He met with them this past Tuesday. 3 pastors, each pastor, they were there together. They're part of a group of churches. Each pastor has a congregation of 3,000 members each. And they invited him because he was referred by somebody to go and talk to them, because they had no idea about anything relating to the chip that was going on. he spoke to them about the chip and ministry revealed and some of these understandings. And they looked at each other, he said, just in awe, like shaking their heads, looking at each other like, did you know? Did you know? Guys, the church leaders have no idea of the season we are in. Very, very few, not all, of course, never all, but the vast majority have no idea the season that we're in. Guys, it is the 70th year. There is no 71st without Israel being struck. And without going into all that any further, let's get going, all right? So the tribulation, the 14 tribulation years, that page, you can go here and you have the 3-part series. And then you can come down here and get the teachings, all right? The videos. You can click on them here, and literally you just right-click and you can save them to your computer automatically. You can click down here and you can get the study notes that we're going to do, like we're going to do today for part 3. You right-click and boom, takes you to the study notes, and you can print those as well. And then, of course, you can do the same here with the timeline video and the mark of the beast. All right? So, let's get into this, guys. This, I know it's going to be a while. If you need to watch it in 2 or 3 parts, do so. Okay, so this is the one I've been talking about here. Daniel 9's final prophecy numbers. This study is really going to get us into some number breakdowns with understanding like many of you have never understood before. Like I said, sit down, focus, take the time, pause it, and take time that you need, all right? The focus on this is, of course, Daniel 9:24 through 27, all right, the prophecy. In revealing its true understanding, it will take us into many other number counts that have been misunderstood over the years, such as the timing of 42 months, which we're not really going to get into because it's not really part of the final 7. It's part of the second half of the first 7, all right? It's the second half of seals, whereas Daniel 9, as we'll get into, you'll see where it is, but it's not really what we're going into, all right? And we can see those are found in Revelation 13:5 and Revelation 11:2. This is the time of the Antichrist, not the time of Satan, all right? This is when the Antichrist gets power to continue 42 months. You see, it says in Revelation 13, he had power to continue, okay? As well as, we'll go into the 1,260 days in Revelation 12:6 and Revelation 11:3, compared to the 1,290 days that we see in Daniel 11, which will lead us into Zechariah 11:8, and of course, time, comma, times, and half a time that we see in Daniel 12:7. Yeah, Daniel 12:7, compared to time, comma, and times, and half a time found in Revelation 12:14. The reason we're going to touch on those two differences, why the comma in the word and over here there's no and, the reason we want to touch on that is because it is part of the revelation of understanding Daniel 9, and when it talks about the 7 weeks, comma, and 62, which we're going to fully break down for you guys in the understanding. All right, found in Revelation 12:14. And as you'll see again, like in parts 1 and part 2, it always takes us back to the 14 years and the revelation of the understanding of Psalms 90 verse 10. All right? Always. It is the understanding of the final years, which begins what? 70 to 80 years. All right? People say, well, are we already in it then? Has it already begun? Yes, it has. All right? Yes, it has, but it's the start. It's the quiet before the storm that's just about to unleash. All right? So, and again, that's revealed by understanding that we're in right now Zechariah 4:1. Zechariah chapter 1. Okay? All this and so much more. So hold on, have your Bibles open, and preferably eSword or something similar. Pause throughout, like I said, because if you've never understood this before, it's going to change all that you understand in regards to timing. Okay? So, like I said, I recommend, however, if you haven't watched part 1 and 2, you should do so. But you can watch this one and understand along the way, but you'll just have many questions, okay? Such as what we're going to start off with. Excuse me. All right, so we need to establish the foundation of the timing of the understanding, and as many of you already know, it's found, of course, in Psalms 90, verse 10. The days of our years are 70. All right, that is 70 in this understanding. And if by reason of strength they be fourscore, which means 80 years, yet is their strength labor and sorrow, for it is soon cut off, and we fly away. This is the revelation of when. Okay? This is the revelation of when everything is about to begin. That opens up the understanding of the prophetic timing. Okay? We see from 70 years to 80 years. We're now in the 70th. From 70 to 80 years. Then soon fly away. All right? Then soon, which is 6 months, and fly away. Excuse me. So we have 10 years, 6 months, and then 3.5 years, which is the flying away of Revelation 12, verse 14. All right? The time that they fly away into the wilderness for. We're going to go into all of this. All based, okay, with the understanding of, which we can go into the understanding of Daniel 9. Okay? So let's get going. So we've all heard over the years the teaching of the Daniel 9 count, and it was revealed in Christ's first coming, right? So we've heard, for example, you know, when you count, let's go to Daniel 9. Let's bring that up. We've been taught that it revealed Christ's first coming, right? That's what it was all about. It's all about when Christ came the first time and it's been fulfilled. All right? That is true. There was a number count understood to when it would, to when it was fulfilled. However, there is also a future prophetic understanding to it, which we're going to go into, and which is what we're talking about. That's going to give this understanding and break it all down for you, okay? And one of those people who also understood it is Sir Isaac Newton. Okay, I did a video with a clip about his understanding and how it revealed that Daniel 9 and these two numbers of the 7 weeks and 62, that they weren't to be necessarily added to be part of the same numbers. All right, and there's some truth to that. So here, including Sir Isaac Newton, who was very studied in scriptures and in Daniel. And in Daniel in his prophecies, believed that he spoke. He believed that it spoke of Jesus's not only first but also his second coming. He believed that there was a need for an understanding of two sets of numbers to be counted separately. All right, I brought something up, pulled something up with that. So see, this is about him. It talks about how at the age of 12, he really started getting into his Bible. And in his later years, all the way to his death at 85 years old, he was a major, major scholar in the scriptures. And in particular, in his later years, he was spending more time, Sir Isaac Newton was, studying the scriptures, and in particular Daniel, than he was everything else he was doing. Okay? And he believed that it wasn't, there's a reason they were separate numbers, all right? Newton's understanding of one key passage in Daniel chapter 9 is fundamentally different than most interpretations, all right? And that's what we were talking about, that these two number sets should be different. Well, this Ministry Revealed, has been revealed the end time understanding of these numbers and their counts. All right? We have got the end time. The Spirit has been working through this, and if you haven't watched the other videos, like I said, not only the last two, but the other ones throughout this channel, you're not going to understand that the Spirit has been at work here. But after watching this one carefully and studying it, there'll be no question that the Spirit is at work, all right? So Newton says the two numbers separately speak of both the first and the second coming, all right? Going forth to the commandment to restore and build Jerusalem, so on and so forth. So you could see here that he was talking about it having two separate understandings. This is what he's talking about here. 7 weeks, comma, and 62 weeks. What we're going to do today is we're going to break that down to show you the final understanding, the end time understanding of that, all right? So, to understand separately. However, as close as he got, he was still not able to understand it. Why? Why wasn't Sir Isaac Newton, this genius, far more intelligent than me, right? Why was he the one to why wasn't he able to receive it? Very simple. It wasn't time. The final understanding wasn't determined yet. It was not the time. All right? That's why. The books were to be opened in the end days. All right? That's why the books are opening now as they have been for this ministry over the last year and a little bit. Okay? But he did leave us a piece of understanding that confirmed what was revealed to me. They are two separate pieces of time, even though they're connected. They are two separate pieces, all right? And we're going to show you how that's broken down. In the end time understanding, they are no more multiples of years, but they simply speak of weeks of years, all right? A week is a year. Yes, there is weeks of years, and it could be multiples of 7, but even in the explanation, even in the breakdown, it's, see, a week specifically of years. So a week can be a year, okay? So we see 7, just like we're going to go into, we see this final one. 1 week is 1 year. And all of this understanding, to be able to grasp all of it, it began with the understanding of Psalms 90 verse 10. All right? That's where it starts. Okay? So let's see here. For a week of the year. So Daniel 9:25, know therefore and understand, okay, that the time to restore and to build Jerusalem. You see, so many people, my wife gets a kick out of it because I am, most men, I guess, right? But I'm not very detail oriented, you know, generally. But when it comes to the scriptures, there is something that comes over me and I catch these little differences. And these little differences are what reveals all of the understanding. All right? Or not all, but a big piece of the understanding. And this one isn't a little understanding. It's clearly obvious. Know therefore and understand what? To restore and to build Jerusalem. Meaning what? It has to be destroyed first. Well, when does it get destroyed? In the 70th. You see, let me show you something real quick too. This is a piece of the understanding that I'm not going to go too much into, except just to show you a big piece of it. I get just an overall, a high elevation. 70 weeks is what? All right? 70 years. All right? Specifically of years. A week of years. All right? So 70 weeks can be 70 years. That's why you see here Shabuah as well. All right? Like Sabbaths of years, or what do they call that? It means for a year is what it means. All right? Just like we said, for weeks of years. 70 years are determined upon thy people. What year are we in? The 70th year. All right? 70 years are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city to finish the transgressions and so on and so forth. Okay? Know therefore and understand from the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem. So 70 years are determined, then you're going to be destroyed, right? Jerusalem is getting struck this year, okay? Know therefore and understand from the going forth of the commandments, so soon after being destroyed, it's going to settle down, and there's going to be a commandment going out sometime later in 2019. That's going to be to restore and to build Jerusalem, and they're going to want to build it as always, the temple and everything, unto Messiah the Prince. All right? Messiah, look, capital M, capital P. Okay? This is to the Lord. This is to Messiah himself. They're going to build it to Messiah. And what does it say about that time? That time shall be 7 weeks, 7 years, comma, and 70, which we're going to talk about, and 2, we'll break that down. The city and the streets and the walls shall be built again, even in troublous times, including the temple. So what do you have here? You have 7 years, 3 and 2. This is 3.5. We'll break that down. So you have 10.5 years. Well, did you see that Psalms 90 and 10 said from 70 to 80, and then soon. Soon is the 6 months. So when does all this tribulation, when does this really begin? 70th. Sometime towards the end of the 70th, right around now. Right? Between now and May 14th is when it begins, the 70th. And then from the 70th, you have what? 7, 3.5, that's 10.5. And then what? From the time he cuts himself off, you have another total of 2.5 of war, and 1 here when he returns to confirm the covenant, and we'll break this down, for a total of 14 years. The 15th year is the restoration of all things, the Jubilee year. You see? This is what it is. It begins at the 70th. That's the revelation of Psalms 90 and 10, and we're going to break this down. We'll break down Daniel. Don't worry about it. We're going to really get into it. See, the days of our years are 70 and 10. 70. In this case, a score means the 20, all right? It is the 20, 20, and 20, and I'm going to explain that it also has another understanding that isn't given to us in Daniel, but it should have been added to it, but it's talked about in Genesis, and I'm going to show it to you. Okay? So 70 years, and if by reason of strength they're 80. Who is this speaking to? It's speaking to Israel. Not only the land, not only the people, right? But it's speaking to Israel and Judah. It's speaking to the whole land. See, they're going to start being part of this when? Right off the bat. 70 to 80 years. It's going to be tribulation, labor, and sorrow. See? Travail, trouble, pain, sorrow. Soon is a short, brief period of time. 6 months. We're going to show you the cut-off time and the fly-away time. All right? Once you understand it, guys, it becomes crystal clear. You realize that before they can start rebuilding it, Israel, Jerusalem has to get decimated. All right? And there's many more things we can go into with the books that reveal some of these understandings. So, shall be 7 weeks. So we showed you that, right? This 7 weeks is weeks of years, right? Meaning 7 years. And the understanding being spoken about regarding the separation of the 2 number sets is the comma and. We explained this a little in the part 2 video, but we'll break it down here for greater understanding, right? We'll go a little bit further into it. We not only find it here in Daniel 9:25, but also mentioned above regarding time, comma, times, and a half, which is Daniel 12:11, compared to time, comma, and times, comma, and half a time, which is Revelation 12:14. Okay? We'll touch on that as well. And we also find its understanding in Revelation 7, verse 9. Okay? So we'll get into these. I just want to see, was I going to go into them there, or is it a little bit later? I think we'll get into these in a little bit. You'll see them, that the difference of the word and between the two time and times. Okay? So we also find it here in Revelation 7, verse 9. Let's go to Revelation 7, verse 9, and let me show you this understanding in another area of the Bible just to give you a grasp of what it's talking about. Okay? So the sixth seal happened, right? People saw the Lord coming in the air and on the clouds, right? He's coming on Mount Zion. That's what's coming. And then what happens? The 144,000 are sealed. And then you have the great multitude. This great multitude is the rapture of the church. But what happened earlier in the fifth seal? What happened in the fifth seal, right? Here's the fifth seal. It's not a judgment. Remember when we were showing that magazine cover? The first one isn't a judgment, and the fifth one and the seventh aren't judgments. So that cover had the second seal, the third seal, the fourth seal, and the sixth seal. All right? That's what was revealed on it. It doesn't have the fifth seal because what's the fifth seal? Those that were slain for the Lord. These are the martyrs. Right? What were they given? They were given white robes and told to wait a little longer. Okay? When we go to Revelation 7, after the sixth seal, before the seventh seal, okay, we see this great multitude now in heaven, all right? Now it's going to be in paradise, okay? What do we see told about these guys? And they stood before the throne and before the Lamb, right? Of course they stood before the throne and before the Lamb because what? The sixth seal, we see, and they said unto the mountains and the rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. Okay? So the one who sits on the throne and the wrath of the Lamb are now here, which we're also going to break down for you. So what does he tell them? They're now raptured. They're before the throne and before the Lamb, right? On Mount Zion. And what does it say? They're clothed with white robes, comma, and palms in their hands. And I don't want to spend too much time on this except to show you the purpose of the comma and. Okay? The purpose of the comma and is to distinguish, to separate these two groups. Who are the ones that have the white robes? They are the dead in Christ, those that died and were under the altar and were given white robes. All right? And the ones who have palms in their hands, these are the ones that were alive. These are the ones that were raptured alive from the earth. All right? Now, does it mean they can't all have white robes and palms in their hands now? No. It's just saying there's an understanding of the separation because of the comma and. They are two separate groups given to understand because you could see that it's an addition to. All right? Just like there is a throne, comma, and before the Lamb. So they're not only before the throne, but also the Lamb. They're not the same, right? The throne is not the Lamb. All right? Same principle, same idea. And in fact, let's show it to you real quick in the understanding of Daniel. We might touch on it later, but we'll just briefly touch it when we get there, okay? So he says to the angel, oh my goodness, how long is this all going to last? Right? And the angel of the Lord says to him that it shall be for a time, times, and a half. You see, there's no and between these two because it's only 2.5 years. There's no addition. It's 1, 2.5. Whereas Revelation 12, and we're going to break down these understandings because they tie in exactly to this time frame of Daniel 9. When we go into Revelation 12, verse 14, we see, and to the woman were given the wings of a great eagle that she might fly. See, this is that fly away that we saw in Psalms 90 and 10. And how long does she fly away into the wilderness for? For a time, comma, and times, comma, and time, right? And half a time. So what is that saying? 1 plus 2 plus a half. 3.5 years. That's the final flyaway portion that Psalms 90 and 10 is talking about. And it's the one in Daniel 12 is not the complete 3.5 years. It is only 2.5 of those 3.5 years. It's all going to be broken down in what we're talking about today. All right. So we found that here. We find this many times, in fact, in the verse like we covered, and they all confirm the same understanding. They are separate, yet part of the whole understanding, like Newton was also talking about, all right? In this example in Revelation 7:9, it's giving us separation of those who had white robes compared to those who had the palms in their hands, all right? The difference between those who were dead and those who were alive, as we mentioned. We've also done a video on this a few months ago, all right? It's the video about cleansed, the difference between those who are cleansed right now, right? People who are repentant, right? Who have given their lives to the Lord, who are repentant daily. Like Paul said, I die daily, right? Repenting daily, whether we knowingly sinned or not. All right? Coming to the Lord, spending time, giving him thanks. All right? That group is the bride about to go. Those who are going to be left, the sleeping church that don't understand these things, that don't understand about, daily repentance and coming to the Lord, asking for forgiveness, those people are still going to be left. That's the group that it's talking about there in Revelation 7 with palms in their hands. Those are the ones that had to get their hands cleansed. That's why you see it in, I believe, either Psalms 24 or 124. They needed to still clean their hands, which is why they got purged during the tribulation of the seals. You see that? Those that didn't, that had already have already been cleansed in the Lord, those are the ones you see in Psalms 18 that after the earthquake that we talked about in the last couple or so videos that is about to take place, and it's going to be California, get ready, less than 6 months, between now and May 14th, well before May 14th, I'm certain of it, maybe even towards the end of this year, maybe even around the 21st of this year. All right, the 21st of December is very possible. Okay, what's happening now? The yellow jackets, right? Those dressed in yellow, protesting. It appears to have come to an end because Macron has scrapped the carbon tax, all right? The only thing that comes next is the person that is going to declare 40 days in that image and the earth cracking, all right? For those who haven't watched that video, you can just watch the last couple videos or so and see what I'm talking about. It revealed what we've already understood in Psalms 18 as the year 2018. It is the last portion that comes. All right? So again, like I said, we talked about that video compared to hands cleansed and those that need to get them cleansed, which is going to happen during the seals. This same thing applies to Daniel 12:11, simply having a comma, and Revelation 12:14 having the comma and. All right, so that's what we just went through. Next, in Daniel 9:25, is the understanding of the 62. All right, let's go back to Daniel 9. Daniel, where are you? All right, let's go back to Daniel 9, and we see here in Daniel 9:25, know therefore and understand, right? From after they've been destroyed, then there's going to be a commandment to go and rebuild it. 7 weeks, we've just revealed, this is the time of seals. All right, why isn't it broken down here? Because it is not the time of what? Thy people. It's not the time of Judah, right? Does it affect? Yes, you got to remember Israel, the land of Israel, all of Israel, all right, including Judah. Jacob, if you will, the entirety, right? Israel. And then Israel became the northern tribes, and then you have Judah as the southern tribes, all right? Now, when it's talking about this time coming up is the time of Jacob's trouble. It is the second set of 7 years that get broken down here that we're going to be spending some time in. All right, this second set of 7 years is the trumpets. We just showed you all these things that were before it, right? The Lord, when did we see the Lord coming? Right? We just showed the Lord, not everybody is going to see him, but there are going to be people that are going to see him and understand he's coming when they see whatever this Mount Zion coming down with the clouds and so forth. They're going to know. That's why they say at the end of the sixth seal, hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne and from the Lamb. All right? Why does it say that? Because he's coming. All right? He's not coming feet down, but he is returning, and we're going to break that down too. Okay? So now let's see, what is this understanding, 70 in 2 weeks? Well, when we look at 70, they've only given us the understanding. Sorry, give me a second here. They've only given us the understanding of it meaning 60, right? Is 20, 20, and 20. A score in many of the cases meant 20. However, it is not the only understanding of a score, all right? This was a little harder to understand until you realize the scriptures have been given to us, have given us another understanding of the meaning of score that was not added to the word description of 70. And what's funny is when I was first revealed this understanding many months ago, it's so incredible how the Lord works. Obviously. But it is so incredible because it was within, I believe it was within a week, maybe even less, maybe in 24, 48 hours, that I was revealed this. Genesis 15, verse 5. All right? Let's go to Genesis 15, verse 5 and see another understanding that should have been applied to this scoring. So Genesis 15, verse 5. And he brought forth abroad and said, look now toward heaven and tell the stars. Is he talking to the stars? Tell the stars something? No, you'll see. If thou will be able to number them. And he said unto him, so shall thy seed be. All right? Now toward heaven, tell them. What's the word tell? See, it's the same word. You see how this happens a lot, right? One says tell, the other one says number. Yet, the understanding is the same. And in this case, what is it telling them? Look, it's the prime root of the understanding. You can't go any further back. And it means what? To score with a mark as a tally or record. All right? To inscribe. That is the understanding. You see, what's the reference of it? To score. You see that? To score with a mark. You see, that should have been part of the understanding added, and I know it for a fact because of the understanding of Psalms 90 and 10 and this complete breakdown that not is only revealed in Daniel 9, but also revealed in Ezekiel, revealed in Zechariah, revealed in Acts, revealed in so many different places. All right? So we could see here the prime root, like we said, from the two, to tell is the same as number. Okay? Properly to score with a mark as a tally. Okay? The understanding of this is like this. See? 1, 2, 3. You're marking it off. You're scoring something, right? Like crossing off one number, crossing off 2 numbers, crossing off 3 numbers. As the meaning to mark off or score. Now, add and 2, right? So 70 we've covered, now and 2. And this is what you get. 1, 2, 3, and 2. What is that like? 2.5. See, for a total of what? 3.5 years. This is the understanding. It was confusing. It seemed hard to understand it. But when you understand the 70, 1, 2, /3, all right? /1, /2, /3, and you have that 2 to the end of it, you now see that it's 70 in 2 years, 3.5 years is what it's saying. It is absolutely 100% saying that. Now, can this understanding be confirmed? Right? Absolutely 100% yes. It's confirmed in Psalms 90 and 10 itself. Okay? Watch this. Let's confirm all this. So now we have 7 weeks, the first 7 years of seals, comma, and 3.5 years here by Daniel 9:25, all right? Then the verse continues on and tells us the streets and the city shall be built again, and the wall even in troublous times. So what portion of time is being built again, right? Is it being built again? After the first 7 years. Once the first 7 years are complete, then it says those following 3.5 years, see, the city and the street shall be built again. Let's go to it. Back to Daniel 9. Remember, if you need to take your time and pause and go through it, definitely do it, all right? I can do this in my sleep. It's crazy. I did this whole thing in like 4 hours today. So I've got it on the front of my mind right now. So see, that's why we see here 7 years and 62, 3.5 years. So during those 3.5 years, see, that's why you see the colon. During those 3.5 years, the city, streets, and wall shall be built again, even during those troublous times of this 3.5 years. That is what? After the 7, meaning the first 3.5 years of trumpets. Okay? And after those 3.5 years, Messiah, who they were building it to, right, shall be cut off. Well, look, this is capital M Messiah, guys. This is why you need to use King James. All right? They built it to Messiah the Prince, and he has come because he must have come because he's cut off. And what does it say? And after those 3.5 years of trumpets shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. So we have to be able to show, well, wait a second. Can we show that Messiah is going to be cut off? Let's keep going here. So remember, so after those 7 years of seals, then we read Daniel 9:26, and after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. And it goes on. It's telling us that Messiah will have been here during that time of the 3.5 years. Okay? In some form. But then cutting himself off. Can we back this in Scripture? Again, yes, we can back this up. All right? When is Jesus first seen during the tribulation? We spoke about this a few minutes ago. After the 6th seal he is seen, right? In Revelation 6:16. And said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. Right? For the wrath of the Lamb is come. Okay, that's trumpets. This is what? Before the 6th seal. Before the 7th seal. Right? And then what else do we have for a reference? So we know the Lamb is coming before he comes feet down on the Mount of Olives. That's exactly what it's telling us here at the end of the 6th seal. This is why it has been so confusing for so many generations to understand when they throw it all in 7 years. They throw it in 7 years and they say, well, this must be when he comes feet down. And then you got people pre-trib, mid-trib, post-trib, because that would make it at the end and he's coming at the beginning for the rapture. Oh my goodness. It's absurd. And I'm not upset with people because, guys, prior to a little over a year ago, I've only been doing this for 15 months. I don't have years and decades of experience. And I could show you where that is in the scriptures as well. That he had to give it to babies. Because the shepherds were too busy building their churches. Like I told you at the beginning. They got so consumed with building their churches and getting bigger and greater attendance at their churches that they forgot the scriptures. It's exactly what we're told, and it's either, I don't know if it's Isaiah 24, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I had sent it to a couple of subscribers, I think Keith and Tabitha, Disciple Tabitha on the channel, in the ministry, to look it up, all right? It is unbelievable. The whole thing is revealed right there. Oh, you know what? I think it might have been Jeremiah 4. But everything is revealed right there, right? The Lord had to give it to the babies, those that were still on milk. You see, I was still feeding on milk when it came to scripture understanding. So the Lord came, the Spirit came and said, he's been asking. Boom, give it to him. And that is what's been happening here. It had to be given to babies like us in our scripture understanding because the shepherds were too busy. All right? That's what's going on. So we see here the Lord has shown up in some fashion with Mount Zion. And now we can confirm this even more. Then, when the 144,000 are sealed, all right, followed by the main harvest, see, that's the seventh seal. So he is seen in some form, somehow, coming in the clouds, all right? It's going to be with Mount Zion, on Mount Zion, not feet down on Mount of Olives yet, but on Mount Zion, all right? Then you see what? Right before the seventh seal, you see the 144,000 are sealed, and you see the main harvest that we looked at earlier. This is the rapture group, which we've also done a video about called time to understand the harvest, or understanding the harvest, like you see here. We've done a video on that because each harvest, including wheat and the grapes, they each have a first fruits. The first fruit of the wheat is the bride who is now about to go, the ready portion of the church. It is a 10% portion. Those that are going in the great harvest, that is the rapture in the year 2024. But the 144,000, before these guys go, there's 144,000 that are going to get sealed, and these guys are the first fruits of the grape harvest. All right? For the Israelites, for Judah. All right? And we did a video on that. So each one has a first fruits, everyone has a main harvest, and then there's always some stragglers, and those that survive throughout all the tribulation will come to the house of the Lord annually at tabernacles to give praises and tabernacle there with the Lord, all right? For that feast, for that festival. Then it says, the next time we see the Lamb is where? We see him on Mount Zion with the 144,000 right before trumpets, which is, again, Jacob's trouble beginning. You see? Look. Let's go look at that. I don't know how was this all missed by teachers over the years. You know, like I said, I understand because we didn't know, but why didn't the pastors see this? Why didn't they understand this? See, look at Revelation 14, verse 1. And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on the Mount Zion, and with him the 144,000. When? Before trumpets begin. They were sealed right before the seventh seal. They get their training, if you will, and there they are on Mount Zion with the Lamb. Crazy. Do you see how this all fits? You see the 7 years? Then trumpets is about to begin, the time of Jacob's trouble. The 144,000 are now ready. The Lord is there on Mount Zion with them. They're going to get trained. They're going to go out for their first 3.5 years before coming back and being given extra special supernatural strength from the Lord. And then they're going to be sent out again. And the reason for that extra supernatural strength that time is because Satan will have come down. The pit will be opened, and which we're going to get into, which is the second half of these trumpets. And what? They need power to tread on serpents and everything else. All right? because the pit's going to be opened up, and what happens? 2.5 years of war. All right? So let's look. Let's keep going. This is also confirmed to us in the book of Zechariah. All right? We will go into greater detail about the book's opening and revealing chapters to years. This is a major revelation, guys. The books, the understanding that we've been told about would happen, that the books would open in the end days, is happening, guys. All right? We've revealed it. Whoops, give me a second. I'm going to pause it for 1 second. Oh, no, I'm not. You're just going to have to wait. I don't want my heat to go out, and I might have just knocked it. There we go. Give me 1 second. All right. I had to move it. It is cold in the garage. All right. So there's a revelation of chapters to years based on books. And we have proven it over and over on this channel. And I'm not going to go into great detail. I mean, each one of the books and the revelation of each book, we've done them here on the channel in other videos. And we'll do a teaching if we have time, not today, but in other video teachings with study notes in the future. All right, that's another grouping of them that's planned out. All right, so what did I say? So like we've taught in Ezekiel, Hosea, Zechariah, John, Acts, Psalms. I mean, we've done it over and over and over again, okay? And we'll do that in further parts. But to give greater understanding regarding the when of the Lord on Mount Zion, we'll touch a little here. We'll touch a little here on the end time understanding of the opening of the books in Zechariah and in Ezekiel, right? We've done it in many, many other books, not just these, but we'll give 2 examples here in Zechariah and in Ezekiel that will prove this timing out, okay? You'll notice Zechariah has 14 chapters. This was done on purpose by the Spirit given to them, who only a few hundred years ago added chapters to help us with references. All right? That was the purpose of adding adding chapters, and then later on they added verses as well. It helps us with understanding where we are and being able to teach it and so forth. And, you know, I've had that question more than once where people say, well, you know, that wasn't inspired. The Bible was inspired. That was, well, look, the Spirit's been with us the whole time, guys. So if the Bible was inspired, do you not think that those who put in the chapters and the verses would have also been inspired? Get it? Right? Of course they could have been inspired. Of course they were inspired. And the teachings here on this channel absolutely prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt. So let's go in here. So again, in Daniel 9:25 through 26, after the first 7 years, we see the Lord is here in some fashion, and he's here for 3.5 years to oversee the rebuilding of Jerusalem, because cutting himself off, leaving to go, and he's here for 3.5 years, which we already know, to oversee the rebuilding of Jerusalem. It shouldn't say before, it shouldn't say because, it should say before cutting himself off / leaving to go somewhere for some reason, I put, right? Before he leaves to go somewhere, which I'm going to show you that as well. All right? So we have the 7 years. He's here for 3.5 years. So where can we confirm all this? As mentioned, we see him on Mount Zion with the 144 in Revelation 14:1, okay? Which is at the beginning of trumpets time. We also see him in Zechariah 8. All right? Let's go see Zechariah 8. Let's read it from here first. Thus saith the Lord, I am returned unto Zion, and will dwell in the midst of Jerusalem. And Jerusalem shall be called a city of truth, and the mountain of the Lord of hosts, the holy mountain. Let's check that out. Look, 14 years, 14 chapters. If Zechariah 1 is 2018, which we've been teaching now for many, many months, then that would make what? 2018. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, 2024. And chapter 8 would be the year 2025, which would be what? The beginning of trumpets, right? The beginning of trumpets. Daniel, where are you? Let me go back to Daniel, right? I know you guys are following this. It brings us back to Daniel. That says what? See, 7 weeks. After those 7 weeks, the Lord's going to be here for those 3.5. Remember? After 7. And here we are in Zechariah 8, which is after the 7, the beginning of trumpets. And what does it say? Thus saith the Lord, I am returned unto Zion, and will dwell in the midst of Jerusalem. Shall be called the holy mountain of the Lord. Do you see that? Do you see that perfect connection? Right? It's not his feet down on the Mount of Olives. That still comes at the end in the 14th year. All right, let's continue. Now, if the 14 chapters of Zechariah truly did have a chapter to year end time understanding, it should confirm this as well, right? As well as many others, which we're not going to go into, but we've done a whole teaching on Zechariah, showing that the book of Zechariah is the final 14 years of the tribulation years, from 2018 in the 70th year to the temple being built, to the return. All of it is in there. And it's from what direction? It's from the angle of Judah. All right? It's from their perspective. All right? Let's go into Zechariah 1. All right? We've been teaching and revealing that, in fact, Zechariah 1 in the timing of, or Zechariah in the timing of events is 2018. Right? And that a year goes from spring to spring. So if chapter 1 is 2018, that would make chapter 8 the year 2025. And the 8th year, right? The start time of trumpets after 7 years. Right? Where are we? After 7 years. It's the time at the start of trumpets. Well, what else do we know? What did Daniel 9 tell us? Daniel 9 told us that from the beginning of those 3.5 years with the Lord here, they were going to be rebuilding the city and the streets and the temple. Well, that's what all this is about. Make sure your hands are strong and so forth, right? Where from the day they laid the foundation, see, that the temple might be built. Right? There was nobody to help before this time for the Lord. Why? Because peace was taken from the earth. And there was what? The affliction. Tribulation had begun. Now, if that's the case, we should be able to see here in Zechariah 1 that it's the year 2018 where the tribulation is going to begin, and that it truly is the year 2018. We've gone through this before to show us all these things have lined up in order. But let me show you the most obvious. See, the Lord is upset with Judah. They think they're cleansed and they're doing everything right when they're not, because they don't have Yeshua. They've missed him, right? So the Lord is upset with them. And what does it say? Against which thou hast indignation, these, meaning currently 70 years. Remember Psalms 90 verse 10? These 70 years, meaning what? They're currently in the 70th year. And here we are in Zechariah 1. And then what does the Lord say? I was sore displeased at them that were at ease. This is because the peace deal's coming first. And then it says, then I became very displeased, and they helped forward what? They brought forth the affliction. When did this affliction begin? In first chapter 2018. And now this tribulation of the seals is over. And what does the Lord say? I am returned unto Mount Zion, where you guys are going to build the city and the streets now and the temple, of which you couldn't do before, the proper one for me. Why? Because there was nobody to work it, because there was tribulation. Do you see that? Do you see how absolutely incredible all this is? Well, we're not done. Let's keep going. And see, and it's exactly what the Lord having returned, and it's exactly what we see the Lord having returned to Mount Zion after the 7 years. Okay? Not the feet down on the Mount of Olives. This is the Mount on Mount Zion. He won't be seen or understood by everybody, as we talked earlier. All right? The Jews aren't going to see him. Okay? Some will get it and make their way, but the only way to actually get to him there is through the 144,000. All right? And that's another whole 3-hour teaching. So, see, I even said that. We can go into another 3-hour teaching just on that part alone. See, I hadn't even read that yet. But let me finish here in Zechariah by showing you 2 simple, straightforward confirmations of this understanding. In Zechariah 1, right, that we just went through, all right, we saw how long these indignations, these 70 years, see, which is, where are we today? 70th year right now today. You see that? And then tribulation. Do you understand why I'm telling you this? Do you understand? The books are opening here, guys. This is the ministry of the opening of the books. Okay? Now let's look at another one. If that's the beginning, it's the 70th, then what about at the 14th year? All right, so now let's look at Zechariah 14, verse 4. And his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives. 14th year. When does the Lord appear? Then shall the Lord go forth. Then shall the Lord go forth and fight against those nations, as when he fought in the day of battle. When did he fight in the day of battle? At the end of the 6th seal. That's the war of Gog and Magog. There's going to be another one much later, but this is the Gog and Magog, which is in the year 2324. All right, when they're going to come, and he's going to fight them as he did in the day of battle. You see, this was when he had the battle against them in the year 23 and 24. All right, now, see, he's going to go against these nations. Now this is an even bigger one because Satan is here at the end. But where are we at? We're in the 14th year. Not the end of it. We're at the beginning of the 14th year, which we're going to explain as well. It's all about Daniel 9's understanding, guys. And what happens? And his feet shall stand in that day on the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem, on the east. And the Mount of Olives shall cleave. It's going to rip in two. All right? There's going to be a great valley, and it's going to split in half. All right? This is called a what? A great earthquake, right? Pretty straightforward. When? Near the beginning of the 14th year. All right, let's keep going. This gets better and better. I need a drink of coffee. Cold eggnog latte. How's that? Better than cold coffee, I can tell you that much. So which is before Jerusalem and half toward the, okay, and then they were talking about the cleave, right? The great earthquake that happens in that 14th year. Okay? And where do we find this? Chapter 14, which is what? In the 14th year. Okay? Let's show one last example to prove this out. Let's go to Ezekiel. We recently did a teaching on Ezekiel that showed the chapters to years in Ezekiel as well. So let's touch on it here and see if we can prove this out. Okay? The book of Ezekiel gives us a confirmation, but from another angle. The year 2018 was revealed to us in Ezekiel 33. And the 14 years go to chapter 47. All right? But Ezekiel has 48 chapters. Chapter 48 is the restoration of all the tribes to their land, and it's the final jubilee year. Remember, What did the Lord tell us with the raising of Lazarus? Right? It was from his death, the 4,000. And when he would return after 2 days, guys, remember, it has got to be perfect. It is going to be perfect. All right? So, is the Jubilee year, which is 3233. So, did I bring it up here? Yeah, I think I do. Let's just keep going. So, we've also made a video proving this out, and we'll go into greater detail in another video as well. However, let's prove out this portion here in relation to the understanding of Daniel 9 and its understanding of the timing. All right? If Ezekiel 33 is the reference for 2018, then chapter 40 should be the year for what? 2025, which would be the beginning of trumpets, when the Lord is now on Mount Zion with the 144,000, which would be Zechariah chapter 8, also the year 2025. Okay? Many, many different angles we've been able to show this. So we've already established he'll be here somehow in relation to being on Mount Zion. But now, according to Daniel 9:25 through 26, while he's here for 3.5 years after the first 7, right? First 7 seals, then he shows up. He'll be overseeing the rebuilding of the city, right? That's what Daniel 9 says, right? While he's here, they're going to be rebuilding the city and the streets and the temple and so forth. So let's see if we can find reference of this in Ezekiel that should begin in chapter 40, if it actually is chapter 25. All right? And here's another thing. If that's indeed the case, we know that the building of the temple doesn't just last for 1 year. He says he's here overseeing it for 3.5 years. Right? So that's 3 to 4 years. Well, definitely would have to go into 4 chapters worth, because if it was only 3 chapters worth, that would only be about 3 years. But it tells us 3.5, so it should go into the 4th chapter. All right? So from chapter 40, and it should last till about it should last for about 3 to 4 chapters, really 4 chapters, because it's 3.5 years. It's more than 3, right? So first of all, let's go. First of all, let's let Ezekiel chapter 40, verse 1 tell us where we are. Are you guys holding on to this? You guys holding on? You guys got your pens and papers, pins and needles? Watch this. If Ezekiel 40 is the year 2025, right? The 8th year, the beginning time of trumpets, when they're going to be rebuilding the city and the streets. This should have understanding of the temple being built. We should see temple here, temple here, temple here. Well, watch this. It goes a step further. Ezekiel 40, he even tells us the season. It's awesome. Look at this. Ezekiel 40, verse 1. In the 5 and 20, in the 25th year of our captivity, what year is that? It's a reference, right? These are types and shadows. In the 25th year, in the beginning of the year, in the 10th day of the month, in the 14th year. I love this one. I love it, guys. I can't help it. I love it. I love it. I love it. In the 25th year, 2025, in the beginning of the year 2025 on our calendar, which would be what? Still in the 14th year. And you say, well, wait a second, Alan, I thought we were talking about 14 years. How can the 14 years be at the beginning of trumpets? That's only 7 years. Yes, sir, it is. It is only the beginning of what? The final 21 years, part 1, which is why I was telling you guys, if you haven't watched part 1 and 2, it is important. All right? Part 1 talks about the total 21 years, with the 22nd year being the Jubilee year. So what is it saying here in Zechariah? from it's the 25th year, right? On our calendar, it's the beginning of the 25th year, January, February, March, somewhere in there, right? January, February, because it's saying it's the beginning of the year. But it's still the 14th year. The 14th year from what? From the beginning of the final 21 years, which was the year 2011. And the first 7 years that are the easy years, right? That the Holy Spirit's been working on the bride. 14 years would be what? It's the end of the 14th year. Remember, a year goes from spring to spring on the proper calendar, but it's what? It's going to be in our calendar the 25th year. Do you see this? Do you understand there's no way on God's green earth somebody like me could just know this stuff? This is crazy. Well, it's not over yet. Remember, there's got to be evidence of the temple, right? Oh, here we go. The east gate to the outer court. All about building the temple. Measure also the porch. Measure the porch from here. The little chamber, the gate. Measure this. Measure that. Measure this. The outer court. Measure from here. Measure from there. South gate. Inner court. All the way. All the way. Okay. That's only first chapter. Oh, the inner temple. Let's keep measuring all these chambers. Separate this and this one from that and that one from this. How about again? 1, 2, 3. But this wasn't right from the beginning, right? This was part way through. So 1, 2, 3. Temple chambers now. Let's go in there and get all these temple chambers done. Everything in the temple done. Then what? Oh, the glory of the Lord fills the temple. Right? In the inner court. All of it is related to the temples. To the temple. Now the altar. Do you see what I'm saying? And then what does it go into here? It's built. See? Then he brought me back the way of the gate. You see? Of the outward sanctuary which looketh toward. It's built. How many? 1, 2, 3 and a half. Man, I love it. God is so good. Oh, man, it doesn't get any straightforward than that. All right. Where Ezekiel 40 for 3.5 years in the first 3.5 years of trumpets, just like the time frame the Lord said he will be here, like Revelation 14, like Zechariah 8. I mean, like Daniel, right? It's literally unto Messiah the Prince. See? And then after those 3.5 years of trumpets, Messiah shall be cut off. Why is he cutting himself off? Because he will have, Satan will have lost his battle in heaven, in the second heaven, against Michael and his angels, and Satan and his angels will be cast down to the earth in the year 2028. All right? In that 3.5 years, sometime probably late 2028, give or take, somewhere in 2028. All right? Mid-trumpets. And what happens? The pit is opened up. We have now the 144,000 that had returned now to the Lord after their 1260. He gave them additional increase in power, greater power than he even displayed on the earth before when he was here. And now it is a multiplication of what these guys can do for the next 2.5 years out of the 3.5 years. All right? Awesome, awesome stuff. Let's keep going. Okay, so it tells us in the year 2025, so we've gone through that. All right, we've covered it regarding the 21. And so, yeah, we've covered this, Ezekiel 40, rebuilding. All right. So, Let's have a look now at Daniel 12, verse 11. And the reason I want to say Daniel 12 is because now we've done what? 7 weeks are gone of seals, 3.5 years with the Lord here, and they've been rebuilding the city and the streets, even during troublous times. What does that mean? Even during those judgments of the trumpets that are hitting the earth. All right? There's an area that is protected. I believe it's that, even like we heard, in fact, you'll find that in Zechariah. Right? The Lord says what? That he is going to be, not Zechariah. I thought it was Zechariah too. That he would be a wall. See, for I, saith the Lord, will be unto her a wall of fire round about. All right? It's going to be protected during that time. Okay? So in Daniel 9 again, now the question is, what happens when Messiah cuts himself off? First of all, we're now at the 10.5 years, right? But where is he going to go? It's like it's a mystery. Does he go back to heaven? I mean, he's going to come down for a little bit and go back to heaven? No. The revelation, I want to see if that's where I'm at now. Let me just continue following this. It'll lead into what we're talking about. Okay. So that's why we want to go look at Daniel 11, because we want to get this understanding of now this final 3.5 years. When we go to Daniel 12, verse 11, this is what we talked about earlier. All right? Oh, sorry. No, this isn't the time and a half. This is something else. We've already done the time and a half. This one here talks about this time frame of what? 1,290 days. All right? Whereas in the book of Revelation, in Revelation 12, we see there's 1,260. All right? And in Revelation 11, we see that there's the 1,260 while they're gone prophesying. All right? So it says, and from the time, this is from another angle, okay? So let me just start it from right here, which also reveals understanding to this time frame of the final 3.5 years, all right? Reveals another understanding from a different viewpoint of this same time frame. And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, meaning the rapture, remember, right, at the end of seals, and the abomination that makes desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days. This ties into the same time frame with the 1,260 days of the two witnesses prophesying time. All right? This time frame is from the rapture of the church, right, which is the taking away of the daily sacrifice, all the killings and beheadings and everything that's taken place in the church during that time of the seals. All right? Just like that image, just like that picture from The Economist 2017 that we talked about. You see those three people on the wheel, right? That's the time of the persecution, the pale horse rider, where the beheadings and the killing of Christians is really going to be taking place big time, all right? Which is why by the fifth seal, you see them under the altar, okay? And so let's keep going. This is the time of the rapture of the church, which is also what? The main or the great harvest mentioned above that we talked about earlier. All right, so from the time that the daily sacrifice, the church that was being killed daily, all right, persecuted, beheaded, killed, tortured daily, once the rapture of them has taken place, all right, from the time the rapture has taken place, which is the main harvest that we saw them there. Where did we see them? In Revelation 7, right? We saw a great multitude. That's the great harvest. Okay? Until the time that abomination that makes desolate is set up, it's the time between the two. All right? So from the time that the rapture of the church happens till the time that the abomination of desolation is set up is 1,290 days. Okay? This is the time from around the start of trumpets, right? Give or take around the start of trumpets. The rapture happened before. So from the point of the rapture, which is around the start, a little before the start of trumpets, okay? with the Lord on Mount Zion, to the time that Satan loses his battle in heaven and is cast down to the earth. All right? That's why we see the Lord here. We see him in Daniel 9. He's there for 3.5 years, right? And then he cuts himself off. Why? Because the people of the little p prince, see, he's the big P prince. The people of the little p prince that shall come are going to start destroying and doing all these things and set up the abomination. You see that? From when? Well, the rapture happened here. So 1,260 days and 30, meaning 1,290, then Messiah is going to take off. Watch. Where are we? Okay, because what? Satan has lost his battle in heaven. Now the Lord Jesus is going to leave, either with Mount Zion, however that's going to look. He's leaving. All right? He's not going to be on the earth in the same place, knowing that Satan wants Jerusalem. All right? And that's why you see when the pit is opened up, just like Revelation 12, when Satan loses that battle in heaven and he's cast out, he goes after what? He goes after Israel, right after Jerusalem again, that had been getting rebuilt and beautiful and everything for 3.5 years. He's going to come down, he's going to destroy, he's going to set himself up in it. But look at the difference. Why do we have 360 compared to, 1260 compared to 1290, right? It's the time it will take to set up the abomination. The difference is 30 days. And we can confirm this. Remember our chapters to years, right? Let's go have a look at Zechariah. Let's go have a look at Zechariah chapter 11. What year would it be? 2028. See that? 2028. And look what it says. The vintage of the forest has come down. Satan has lost his battle and he's now come down. This, guys, we don't have any possible understanding of what this is going to be like. This, for those who were sleeping, for those who have managed to survive to get to this point, unfortunately for you, good luck. Good luck. Judah, oh my goodness. Literally, Satan will be here on earth. Giants. Eating people. Crazy, absolute craziness. We can't even imagine. All right? But now let's see what it says. All right? Let's go back here real quick. Watch this. Jeremiah 11, right? Verse 8. What does it say? This is the Lord talking about, right? So he's talking about cutting off the bands, beauty and bands. These are his two staffs, right? These are the two witnesses. Okay? And then what does he say? 3 shepherds, the bad guys, also will I cut off in what? 1 month. Right? These guys are going to start arguing and fighting with each other. See, the enemies never get along. Everybody wants to be the boss, wants to be the big guy on the street. All right? But now Satan's coming. So what had happened? The Lord was here we stayed 1 extra month. That is your difference from the 1260 when the 2 witnesses stopped prophesying. You see? Right here, when they stopped prophesying, to the Lord staying 1 more month, and he's going to cut off in 1 month. And my soul, he says, loathed them. And their soul loathed and hated me. Right? And look what he says now. Then said I will not feed you. That dieth, let die. So those that die, let them die. And those that be cut off, let them be cut off. And let the rest eat every one the flesh of another. Yikes. Yikes. When? 2028. It is the understanding, the revelation of the understanding from the 1260 to the 1290 revealed in Zechariah 11, which is the year 2028. Remember, there are going to be adjustments in these times by a few days in each of the trumpet years, because after the events of the sixth seal, the earth is going to shift or tilt a bit. You got to remember, with the Lord coming down on Mount Zion, mountains are going to melt, right? Craziness is going to take place. You see? And the earth is going to shift. And the days, the years are going to change to 360 days. Okay? We've done another video on that as well. All right. So the Lord will cut himself off. By the way, oh yeah, this is fun. So now we know that the Lord has cut himself off. He was there for those extra 30 days to cut those guys off. And then what does it say? That the Lord, when he cuts himself off, where's he going to go? Right? By the way, where does the Lord go? I put a little happy face because it was another, again, one of those revelations. This whole thing is revelations, all right? Where does he go? The answer is in Jeremiah 49, verse 38. All right, let's go to it. Jeremiah 49, verse 38. We're going to see where the Lord goes when he cuts himself off, where he says in Daniel. Jeremiah 49, verse 38. And I will set, I've done a whole study on Jeremiah 49. You guys can go in and read all of Jeremiah, and you're going to understand where it's talking about. And I will set my throne in Elam, and will destroy from thence means from there, the king and the princes. Hello. Get it? Hello. From there will he destroy them. Where's Elam? Right? Persia. Which part of Persia? Right here in Iran, across from Saudi Arabia, where they have their nuclear facility. This will probably help level the whole thing. Because during those first 3.5 years of trumpets, when there's still destruction taking place on the earth, and the Lord, you got to remember, during that time, the Lord is wiping out those enemies that came against Jerusalem during the time of seals. He's now wiping them out, of which this is part of it. And there's some of these guys down here and some of these other ones, but all of them know. Oh, and including Syria. Syria is going to become a burden, right? The burden of Damascus, we say. The burden of Damascus is going to come in the year 2026. Do you see how all of this opens up, guys? When you understand 14 years and the Spirit, pray when you're hearing these things. Pray, take it to the Lord. Seek these things out. Everything is in perfect harmony with the other pieces. All of it. All right. Let's go to the next part. So, I believe we can say that it's been confirmed and backed by scriptures, with scriptures, and with understanding. So we have the 7 years. Then we have the 3.5 years with the Lord, when the Lord will be on Mount Zion, and Jerusalem will be getting rebuilt. Also during the same time, we have the 2 witnesses who have been prophesying, like we said, for the 1260 days. Okay? Now let's have a look here and find out where we find this. We mentioned them at the beginning, that they're found in Revelation 12:6 and Revelation 11:13. We're not going to spend too much time here, except to briefly go over them, where they're found, to show exactly the connection to the time frame from the start of trumpets to mid-trumpets. Okay? Now you'll also want to pay very close attention to the wording. Okay? In Revelation 11:3, he says, I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. See, it says, shall prophesy 1,260, and not that they will be killed right away. You see, this is very important to understand. And we'll get back to this in a minute, okay? We'll get right back to this. We'll go into this. Because I want you to understand that Revelation 12 is the revelation of the timeline. All right? It's from the beginning of the tribulation to the 10.5 years. All right? The 7, then the 3.5, to the time when, to the time that Revelation 12:14, when the woman will fly into the wilderness for the last 3.5 years. Okay? I want to show you that briefly. Revelation 12 is all of it. It is the bird's eye view. It hasn't happened yet. All right? I think that's pretty clear and evident to everybody now. All right? What do you have? What comes first? This woman, right? This woman comes first. When we look at Luke 11, we know that there is a 40-day warning, right? So when we've read it in Luke, right, the sign of Jonah spoken of here in Luke, the Lord says, for as Jonah was a sign, being Jonah when he walked in, he was a 40-day sign unto Nineveh. All right? And then he says, so also shall the Son of Man be to this generation. So the Son of Man is going to give us a 40-day warning. That's what we're waiting for. It's about to happen. We're going to receive this 40-day warning very, very soon. In Mark, it says no sign is going to be given to them. And then he left. All right? Just like we see when the rapture happens, do they get raptured as soon as they see the Lord? No. It doesn't happen for several months, maybe even as much as 6 months later. And then we see in Matthew, he says that they will receive the sign of Jonah as Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days. That is the sign for Judah. And when do I believe that one is? When the 2 witnesses are killed. They will be lying in the streets for what? 3.5 days, right? 3 full days and nights. I believe that is the understanding there, because as you'll see when we get to that, as we wrap it up, you're going to see that that's when the Lord returns, which is that great earthquake that happens in the 14th year, which is when the Lord returns to the Mount of Olives, which is the end of the 6th trumpet, just like we saw him come at the end of the 6th seal. Everything is perfect. Okay? So we get a 40-day sign, and the reason I came into this is because after this 40-day sign that the bride will get, that everybody will get, we'll get it. Many will understand it, most won't have a clue, because we know the bride is very narrow road, right? It's only about 2% of the world population, and that about 2% will equal 10% of the church. It's a perfect number. All right, I've talked about it before, I'm not going to get into it here. But what do we see happens after the bride is gone? See, after this 40-day sign with the Son of Man coming for the bride, right? What happens next? The Queen of the South shall rise up in judgment with the men of this generation and condemn them. This is the Revelation 12:1 sign. When? After the 40 days. Or at least after the 40-day sign of the Son of Man. All right? But the sign of the Son of Man isn't a sign. It says, so shall also the Son of Man be. The Son of Man will be the sign. Okay? All of it tying into these same time frames, guys. Okay? And so in Revelation 12, again, in Revelation 12, that's where you see, there's your beginning of tribulation. Birth pains is the pain that she brings, the judgment that she brings. Then you're going to see the celestial body in heaven. It's going to cast down 1/3 of the stars, literally comets and meteors and so forth. Well, maybe not comets, but major meteors. It's going to destroy and devastate much of the earth, and there's going to be a great earthquake, the 6th seal. All right? And then what do you see? And she brought forth a man-child. Yeah, the Lord's returning. And then what happens? You see those with the rod of iron. He will rule with a rod of iron, but the 144 are going to be the ones doing it during the time of trumpets. And then what happens? Her child, the church, is then caught up. It's the rapture of the church. When? At the end of seals. Exactly where we showed it. All in order. And then what do we see? This woman who flees for 1,260 days. This portion She's now fleeing for 1260. This is what? Kicks off now trumpets. All right? It is the same time at 1260 that we see in Revelation 11 that the two witnesses are going to prophesy for. There's going to be a 3.5 year war with Michael and his angels against the dragon and his angels. It's going to last for 3.5 years in the heavens. How is that going to look to whoever's left? I'm not sure, but I'm sure some sort of space battle. All right? You're going to absolutely see it. And it's going to last for 3.5 years. Once it's over and Satan is cast down, guess what? It's the end of the 1260. You see, all tying into the understanding. It's the end of the 1260, and then what does he do? When he's cast down, he's realized he's cast down. They open the pit, the fifth trumpet, right? Go after the woman to persecute the woman who flees into the wilderness for the final 3.5 years, which is why it's time, comma, and times, and half a time. Okay, Revelation 12 is the 10.5 years, but it even has the final 3.5 years explained right here. It is 14 years. All right, but really you can say it's to the end of the 10.5 when she takes off. All right, and then you see what? And then the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, the 144,000, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. See, they've gone to make war with what? After the flood, went to make war with the remnant, with the 144,000, right? With the two witnesses. You see, that's exactly what we see in Daniel 9. After the 10.5 years, what happens? 7, 3.5. What do we see? Messiah cuts himself off, and the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood, and unto the end of the war, desolations are determined. You see? And now how long is this one going to last? This is 2.5 years. Which goes back to why we see in Daniel 12, we see how long will this be? And he says for a time and a half. 2.5 years. Because why? He, the Lord, will return in that final year. Okay, let's keep going. Now back to the two witnesses time. The reason for the importance in the understanding is that they haven't been killed yet. All right? They haven't been killed yet is because, once should be, is because, what? Anyways, they haven't been killed yet is because when it says, that's what it should be, give me a second. When it says he, Satan, was cast out, will make war with them, he doesn't kill them right away, right? Which we just showed you. He doesn't kill them right away. He makes war with them, okay? And we can see that, let me show you that here, in Revelation chapter 11, all right? So see, go after the two prophets, tormented them. Okay, so they make war with the two witnesses, right? They make war with them, and then what do they want to do? Look, and shall make war against them, and shall overcome them and kill them. Not right away. Look, when do they get killed? Had tormented the earth, and after 3.5 days, the Spirit of God entered them, and then what does it say? And the same hour, see that after 3 days, the same hour that they were resurrected, there was a great earthquake, and the 10th part of the city fell in the earthquake, and there were slain of men 7,000, those that the Lord had saved, and the remnant were afraid and gave glory to the God of heaven. And look at this. the second woe is past. The second woe is the sixth trumpet. This happens right at the end of the sixth trumpet. So the two witnesses are killed at the end of the sixth trumpet, leaving what? 1 year. All right, leaving 1 year. Okay? So secondly, in Daniel 9:26 says, once Jesus cuts himself off, the people of the prince that shall come, and there shall be unto them, they'll come unto them with a flood, and unto the end of the war, desolations are determined. So we saw this in Revelation 12:16, all right? And it's the end of their end, which the dragon shall cast out of his mouth, right? And makes war with them, like we just showed, for the 2.5 years. Next, in Daniel 9:27, as we're coming to the end here, kind of. Next, in Daniel 9:27, we see, and he shall confirm the covenant, he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. See, this he is not the Antichrist. We have been mistaught this because of 14 years. They have completely misunderstood it. It is not the Antichrist. It is the Lord returning in the final year, feet down on the Mount of Olives, just like we read in Zechariah 14, right? What's Zechariah 14? It's in the 14th year. What does he come to do, right? I just showed you. He comes down, feet down, Mount of Olives, and what happens? He splits the mountain, and it is a massive earthquake, ripping the mountain in two, and there is a valley between both sides that have ripped apart. It is the great earthquake at the end of the sixth trumpet. Okay? It is also the time of the end of the sixth trumpet, like I just said, when there's a great earthquake, and those left there give praises to the Lord and believe in him. Why did they do that? Why didn't they do that with all the other big earthquakes that happened along the way? Because now those that were still there, that weren't hiding out in the wilderness, those that were there see him, and they give their life to him. They feared and panicked, right? He's probably going to be huge. All right? So when does this happen? At the 14th year. This is the same time we see the two witnesses have been killed that we just talked about in the sixth trumpet. So you see, they were not killed right away. That was another bad teaching, that the two witnesses are killed after they prophesy for 1260. No, they're given greater power to go out. All right? And the 144,000 will continue, but the two witnesses will get killed. All right? It was 2.5 year war. Remember, if we had the 7 years pass, then the 3.5 years pass with the Lord on Mount Zion, before he cut himself off, that leaves 3.5 years to the end of the 14 years. 2.5 years, of which we said are the time, comma, times, comma, and, right, is the 2.5 years of Daniel 12, which are the war against the two witnesses, and the final year that we've shown when he returns. Why does he return at the 14th year? Right? That's what we were getting at here with Daniel 9. What I was just briefly touching on is we've been mistaught that this here and we've been taught this is the Antichrist. No, it's the final understanding. Right? In the final year, the Lord is going to return in the final year. And in the midst of it, what's he going to do? He's going to cause the sacrifice and the oblations that they were doing in there against the Jews, right? And for the overspreading of abominations, he is going to make it desolate. Why would Satan or the Antichrist, who was the one that set up the abomination, come back with 1 year to go to destroy what he put in? Because it's not Satan or the Antichrist. It is the Lord returning in the final year to wipe the temple clean, just like he did before he was crucified. All right, watch. Okay, yeah, I am on the last page. All right, and flood at the end of the year. So he is not the Antichrist. The final year, remember? The final year. Zechariah 14. Daniel here in 9:27. The end of the sixth trumpet. You see, you go into Matthew and you see when the Lord overturned and threw the tables before going and being crucified. All right? He comes in and cleanses the temple first. And he destroys all those enemies in that final great battle there. You see? That is the understanding. Okay? We've been mistaught that. So it is also the same time we saw the sixth trumpet at the end of the 14th year. 2 witnesses. Okay, I was down here. So that's why we have the 2.5 years, why you don't have the and between the two. Okay? It's to the time that the 2 witnesses are killed and the war that's being placed against that they're up against, all right? And in the final year, we've shown when he now returns. And what does he do in the 14th year? While those who were protected for that full 3.5 years, they are still in the wilderness. All right? They're still being fed and cared for over there. But he returns in that final year to cleanse the city and the temple as he did before going to his death. His final act was to cleanse the temple. Guys, this is unbelievable. I don't know about you guys, but I cannot believe we've been given this understanding so late in the game. Unbelievable. Now, can we also prove this? Yes, of course we can, right? It's what we do here at the Ministry of Revealed End Time Understandings. Right? Ministry of Revealed End Time Understandings, right? Just thought I'd throw that in there. Remember, I was saying we have broken down many books that have revealed their chapter to year understandings. Well, Amos is also one of those books. We briefly touched on Amos in other teachings. I'm going to show you something here from Amos. So Amos has 9 chapters, of which the first 2 are the last 2 years of seals. And from chapters 3 through 9 are the trumpet years. Again, I've done a video talking about this, and we'll do some in other teachings. But again, what I want to do is I'll be doing these in other videos. But to show you a piece that relates to that final year and the temple, let's go to Amos 9, verse 11. Check this out. Remember, the Lord is coming in the final year, right? Watch this. Amos 9. Well, let's see what Amos 1 even says, just to prove it to you guys. 2 years before the earthquake. Before what earthquake? Go look at what comes before the first trumpet comes. The very last piece of the verse before the first trumpet is an earthquake. All right? This is talking about the last 2 years before the earthquake. All right? The Lord will roar from Zion. He hasn't come to Zion yet, but he will make his way to Zion. Okay? And then chapter 9. So this is 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. This is the final year. And what do we have here? In that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof. Hello. Do you get it? Now, did you catch it? The tabernacle of David. Do you know why? Again, it's another teaching that would be going into Haggai. But do you know why? We've talked about it before. This is where we spoke about it. The 2 temples to come. What is Israel so eagerly waiting to get built right now? They are eagerly waiting to build the first temple. All right? They're not going to build it right away. They're about to get crushed, all right? But they are going to be allowed to return and start rebuilding. And that first temple that they want to build so bad, they're going to go in and start to build it. And that temple is the temple that Mark's discourse talks about when it says standing where it ought not. That's what Haggai talks about. They don't get the proper measurements, and it might even not even be fully built. All right, they're building it with a genetically modified heifer. They're going to build it prefab, even though it's going to be perfectly beautiful. They're doing it with unclean hands. So without having been purified, there's no way the Lord will accept that building. All right, that temple. It's going to get destroyed in the battle when the Lord comes, as it said, when he battled as he did before, right? At the end of seals, in the Gog-Magog battle, when all the nations turn to come against because they can't understand this thing that's coming from the sky. And they're going to surround Jerusalem. They're going to come to war against it. All right? And they're going to be defeated. Hence, the burning of the weapons for 7 years. You see that? They're going to burn those weapons during the time of trumpets. That's why they're burning them for 7 years. See, that was another clue into the understanding of the 14 years. All right? And then, now we know the second temple is what? The one that the Lord is going to be overseeing himself. All right? But that men will still build. Okay? And that's what we see here. The first one is what? Like Mark says, standing where it ought not. Why? Because this first temple they're going to build on the Temple Mount. The Dome of the Rock is going to be gone. It's all getting destroyed this year. Right even to Mount Carmel. Thank you. That was from Keith that helped me with that one. Right to Mount Carmel. It's going to be destroyed. All right? Not fully, though. The scriptures tell us that it will not fully be destroyed, the Lord says. Why? Because it's his land. He's going to allow them to go back. All right? And then the second one, which is the one that the Lord's overseeing, is the one called the holy place that we see in Matthew's discourse. This first one is where the Antichrist is going to stand. This second one is where Satan is going to come in with his minions. All right? That the Lord then has to cleanse. All right? So now let's break down this part and confirm it a little more before ending and wrapping this up. In Daniel 9:27, it tells us exactly what he'll be doing. Excuse me. It tells us exactly what he'll be doing. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. See? Final year. And in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. And for the overspreading of abominations, like we were talking about earlier, he shall make it desolate until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured. Do you get it? Shall be poured upon the desolate. This is called the vials, the bowl judgments. All right? That's why he's keeping everybody away till it's over. All right? You see, why would Satan, like we were talking about earlier, why would Satan put in or cause those abominations, right, to be the one, Satan, who is the one who put in or caused those abominations, why would he be the one to come back suddenly a year later and destroy it and cleanse it? You see, as we were saying, it doesn't make any sense. So let's keep going. It also revealed what he began with speaking about, the difference between time, times, and a half, and time and times and half a time from Daniel 11, all right? He's told the angel of the Lord shall be for a time. This is how long that destruction with the craziness of the giants and everything shall last, all right? And this is explained, as we said earlier, as the 2.5 years of the final 3.5, which of course leaves us the final year, the difference from Revelation 12:14, where the woman flies away, as Psalms 90 and 10 says, for the full 3.5 years. All right? That she'll be away. She will not return until it's all over and has been cleansed by the Lord in the final year. When they return, when will they return? They'll return after the 14 years, which will be the final 7 and 7 of the 49 years. And now comes the Jubilee year, the 50th, which would be what? After the 14th, it would be what we would understand in the 15th year in regards to after the 14, all right? But it is the final, after the final 7 of the final 49, which is the 50th, the Jubilee year, when all will be returned each unto their own land. Amen. God bless. Hallelujah. We did it. And see, year 20, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31 to 32, right? Remember, 31 to 32. And then the final year is what? Sorry, I miscounted. This is the final year, which is what? The Jubilee. See? The 7 to the Jubilee. And what do we see? Everybody getting back their land. By Asher, Dan, next to Asher, next to Naphtali, bordering. It is all the return into their land, exactly like we've been teaching here in Ministry Revealed, that the final 14 years are the true revelation of the understanding. And now do you not only know the full and complete understanding of Daniel 9, you could see the 14 years, you can see and understand the Jubilee year, you know that it's about to begin. It equals the time of the Lord's return after 2,000 years when he returns feet down. Everything in perfect 100% harmony with Scripture from the book of Genesis to the book of Revelation. Boom! I'm sorry, I get excited. This is craziness that we understand this. It is so beautiful, so incredible. Thank you, Father God. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for guiding us and leading us. Thank you for revealing greater understanding of your Son, the Word, our Lord and Savior, Yeshua Mashiach. Thank you, Holy Spirit, for coming and revealing this understanding to us. We're so blessed at such a time as this to be able to have this and to share this with everybody that is brought to this ministry and everybody that you guys share it with as well. It is not my ministry. It is our ministry. All right? I am bringing this to you guys, and you guys also in return are bringing things to me that we are piecing together and revealing greater and greater understanding. Guys, it is locked, sealed, delivered. Take your time. I know you're going to have to watch this again, and I'm sure many of you it will have taken you more than one viewing. All right? Incredible, incredible stuff. I love you guys. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.